Alright, so we are going to start with our 5/8 stakes. Now remember, you have two different types of stakes. The ones that we're going to start off with are 5/8, not the 1/2 inch. So take a look at them. Make sure you get the right ones when you're starting out. So we are going to put 40 in this base, and then we're going to twine. I'm going to make sure that the rough side of the reed, and when you feel it, you can feel that there's a rough side and a smooth side. The rough side you want facing you. Okay. The easiest way to do this is put them in at, like, you know, the 4 points of the base. You could get really technical and measure all that out, but there's really no reason to. So in each section, we're going to do 40, right? So in each section, there's going to be 10 of these, if I do it right. So the last two should make 10. See how we did for spacing it out? Looks like pretty good. And we'll go on to the next section and do 10 in it. It's pretty easy. So, some of these are going to be thicker than others. Some are going to be real easy to put in. Others need a little bit of persuasion because they're a little bit thicker, like that one. So, everything's a little different. If you need to, you can always thin it a little bit if it's not going in the way you'd like. But usually, for the most part, you don't have to do that. When you're working with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, with a wooden base, it doesn't hurt to put a line, a bead of glue on that basket on the bottom between these stakes and the weave. And the basket, it just, that way you know you're never going to blow out the basket with that glue in. If you load it up with a lot of weight, usually not what these baskets are used for, but if you do, I'm going to put a little weight on here, hold that down. There's always a potential of it getting blown out and your stakes coming out, which is a pain. So it doesn't hurt to go ahead and use a little bead of clear glue like Elmer's Works. Anything that's clear. I don't use Gorilla Glue, except the kind that dries clear. I don't want the bubbly kind. So, anyways. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a personal choice, but it doesn't hurt to do that. Okay, so this is how you jumpstart class. You have your base woven, or your stakes woven in for class. So that way you're actually weaving and learning and not just putting the bases in, or the stakes in. It's one of those things, you gotta start somewhere, right? So, one thing to be cautious of too, we always put extra stakes in. We always try to do extra material in case the piece is bad, something busts, you know. All sorts of things can happen. So, when you're putting these in, count them. All right, and make sure there's 40. Like right now, I'm just going to go ahead and put all these in, and then I'll go back, make sure I have 40, and make any adjustments in spacing that I have to do before I start weaving. So I have my weavers that I'm going to be twining with in some warm water, waiting for me patiently to get ready to weave here. Alright, so let me count and see what I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. So I need one more. Let me see how many extra I've got. That's my husband thinking of you. He always makes sure he puts in more stakes in that are what are required. Okay, doesn't hurt to count it twice just to make sure. Okay, so I've got my number 2, and what I'm doing is I got a nice long piece here, and I've just looped it. And I am going to stick it around, doesn't matter which one. And before I start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spray bottle, and I'm going to lightly spray on these guys so that they don't do like this one did and come out. Okay, what that does is it starts making that rattan reed expand a little bit, and that way it grabs and it doesn't pull out. Especially when you're trying to get them all in, you think, what? Okay, so here I am, and I'm going to twine. I've got 2 coming out at me, and I am right-handed, so I weave clockwise. And I'm going to go in front of one, behind one. Now, if you're not feeling that that is getting tight enough, using a weave right tool will help you. Okay, then just push it down a little bit more. Most of the time you don't need to do that, but just in case you want to, so there's a possibility. So I'm going to go around twice, I think. Then I'll look and see what the pattern says, if it's twice or 3 times. Either one is fine. I think I only do it twice. Let me check. Alright, so I have, you see I'm almost to the end of my little twiners there. So I'm going to grab another piece, and I'm going to cut it in half. Make sure it's wet by dunking it in the water. And I have 1 more row to go. So what I'm going to do is called the dogtail method of adding on to an existing twiner. So what I'm going to do is just weave this all the way out until I can't weave it anymore. Notice that one is longer than the other. That's a good thing, because you don't want to start both of these at the same time. And that's about as far as that one is going to go. See it? Alright, so that's the one I need to make the stroke with. So I'm going to pull back that dogtail and stick in the thermometer. And then I just leave that, and I'll trim it up later. And I continue on with the weave until I come to the second one. It needs a replacement as well. You notice that I move the basket. Okay, I don't try to push up when I'm weaving. I always want to push down. I got a lot of power this way. I don't have a lot of power that way. Okay, so I'll move the basket. I don't move myself. So I'm coming around here, and this is my, see how I dogtail that in again? Well, once again, I'll trim those off later. Okay, coming around, and then I'm going to show you how to do this lock-in. See how I'm always moving that basket around so that I'm pulling. I just want 2 coming out. And I'll take like 3 or 4 strokes and then pull them out. And that's okay too. So I'm coming up here to that last one. Now I always tell people, make sure that you finish whatever design it is that you're doing. If you look at this one right here, it's only got 2 on it, so I have to do a 3rd one. And the same thing here. There's only 2 on that. I want to do 3. Okay. Then I've got 3 on everything. So I'm going to take these and trim them off a little bit. So I don't need them anymore. Probably using X-Acto is not the best thing, but it was sitting right there, so I used it. So what I want to do is I want to open this up and thread that through. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Oops. Open it up and thread it through that one. And then this one I'm going to do the same thing here. So you thread it through on 2 different stakes. Okay? And once again, I can get rid of that later. Right now it stays. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get ready to do our base. So let me change weavers, get it wet, and we'll start again. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to change over to 3/16 and get that wet. Now the first thing we want to do, I got that soaking. First thing we want to do is pick a stake, doesn't matter which one, and we are going to cut down the center of it. And you won't be able to see me cut down the center of it until I get right down to the base here. Now, why would you do that? You want to make sure that you keep staying in the center when you cut. You had 40 stakes, right? So I've got my 3/16 here. I've gone ahead and I've cut 1 stake all the way down. So I now have gone from having 40 to 41 stakes. That enables me to do a continuous weave. So what I want to do is I want to take this and taper it down, you know, for about 12 inches, maybe 12, 16 inches. And the reason that I do this is because I'm going to start around with this, and I don't want it to be blunt when I start. So I'm going to just start here. It doesn't hurt to put a little clip on it. You can start anywhere you want. Remember, I said that this is going to be a continuous weave. All right, so we're just going to go round and around and around. And what we're trying to shoot for here at this point, just over and under, plain weave. You want the rough side facing you. Okay, and we are, I think it's 14 inches that we want. So, let me check here. Yeah, 7 rows or until 14 inches in diameter. So once again, I'm moving my work so I don't have to move with it. Plus I've still got that ability to pull down on it. Okay, so here I come to my split guy. Alright. Make sure that you don't treat him as a single. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I'm weaving here, and I'm going to show you what happens when I come around, and then I'm going to go ahead and weave all that so you're not bothered watching me for 7 rounds of weaving. One thing I do want to do though is show you what happens when you run out of weaver, because it's different than twining, how you add them. Okay, so you see here, that now I have a continuous weave. If I had 40 stakes, I would have to do start and stop. And on this particular area, it's a pain to do that. So you could, if you wanted, but it's just easier to do 41. So you can do a continuous weave. Okay, so I'm going to continue to spread that out on that split stake. Okay, now I'm going to weave this just until I got to start a new one so I can show you that, and then I'm going to stop and go ahead and weave up those 7 rows so you're not like, oh good, when's you going to get to the next part? Alright, bear with me here, I'm almost there. So when we start on Saturday, I'm going to assume that you have elected to do the quick start, or jump start, and we'll start weaving the sides up. So the base will be all woven in, and then this diameter thing will be woven in for 14 inches. You'll have done your triple twine. Okay, so here's where I'm ending. I'm gonna cut that off right on top of that. Grab me another weaver, dip it in the water quick. I like using warm water, and I don't keep my weavers in there that long. If it's warm water, I can just dip it in for the most part if it's a weaver, especially the smaller stuff. You need it supple, but you don't want it sopping. Okay, so that's how long I said it was in there. That's where it was. I just dipped it in there good. So I'm going to go back 4 on this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That way this covers up. You don't see the beginning of it, and you don't see the end of it. But you need to make sure that you stop on top of the stake. Okay? Can't see the ending, can't see the beginning. All right, now I'm just going to keep going on this for 7 rounds. Like I said, I'm not going to bore you with the process. Okay, so I'm on my last row, and I did have to start another weaver here, just for this last bit. One thing I want you to be aware of, that this is nice and tight, okay? So it doesn't hurt to pull it a little bit if you need to. So I put a clip here to show me where my beginning stake was, and as I get closer to that, what I want to do is take a minute. I want this tapered to that point, so I'm going to say, oh, that's good, and then I'm going to take this piece, just like I tapered it to the beginning, I'm going to taper it at the end. Doesn't have to be perfect, you just don't want it lopsided. That's what the point is here in this particular exercise. Okay, so now then, this part is done. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to upset my stakes. And the way that I'm going to do that, I'm going to put a clip here just for a minute. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to get them wet with some spray, and then I'm going to triple twine them with some number 3. And I'm going to get my number 3 soaking while I'm waiting. Once again, it's in a coil. Sometimes it's easier just to soak the whole coil and let it just relax for a minute before you try to unwind it, because there's quite a bit of material there. So I got my whole coil wet, and I'm just going to undo this and get 3 pieces out. And then I'll take those 3 pieces and stick those back in the water so they're nice and supple for me. Now you can do one or two things. You can either take one long piece and double it like we did when we started twining, and then add a 3rd piece, or you can have 3 pieces. Either way is fine. Sometimes it's a little easier doing one that is wrapped and one separate. You still got 3 weavers, and that's what you need. So I'm gonna I untangle that mess, and I've got my 3 soaking in the water. Okay, so I'm gonna get my spray bottle, and I'm gonna spray that all the way around, and then I am gonna upset them. Okay, and the reason I'm upsetting them is because I want to go from basically being flat to being upright. So we're going to start weaving the sides, but in order to do that, we need to give it some direction, basically. So I want these pretty good and wet. They don't need to be sopping. Okay, and I'm going to upset them all the way around. Of course, it's easier to do it when it's you know, bending right against something. So be a little cautious as you bend. And we're going to do that all the way around. With a little memory. You got to start there, and you're a little concerned about it. You can always put a clip on it to hold it until we start doing this triple twine. Okay. You hear that nice little crunch? That's what we're shooting for. We don't want to bust them. We just want to give them a little memory. So this is you being in charge of your basket saying, oh, I want you to go here. And it doesn't hurt to put a little bit more on there if you feel like it's getting too crunchy when you're making your crease, your upset. Okay. In the meantime, right, my green is waiting on me. So, I have one long piece and one short piece, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that long piece and I'm going to just double it. If I can get it out. If not, I'll just make 3. Alright, so here's the, put it up a little higher, the pine tree basket. This is what we're going to be making, okay? So this is where I want you to be if you decide to jump start your basket. You don't have to do this. You can wait. Okay, but I got like 4 rows. Probably I'll put another one on there. So you want your stakes in, you want your twining done on the bottom, you want your diameter at 14 inches. You make sure you measure it and make sure it's 14. It may not take 7 rows. It took me 7 rows. And then you want to upset your stakes and at least 4 rows. And if you want to keep going, that's fine. Do it. If you look on the inside of this basket, you'll see that the inside layer, remember it's a double wall, it's all smoked reed. So if you want to keep going up, I don't know if it's 14 or 15 rows, go for it. Let me check and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 14 rows. 14 rows until we start putting that other layer on. So if you want to go that far, go for it. You know, if not, we'll start class on Saturday with the base woven up and at least 5 rows of the smoked. And I'll see you on Saturday. We're making the pine tree bucket. Wahoo! We'll see you then.